What's up, everybody, and welcome into Settlement Wednesday, as we're calling it on our channel, because some of the big civil cases that we have been following and discussing together, notice of the settlement at least has been brought to my attention on this Wednesday, October 5th. So thanks for joining us here to talk about Alec Baldwin and the other producers and parties involved with Rust settling the wrongful death lawsuit brought against them by Helena Hutchins' family and her estate. We're going to talk about what was likely to be in that settlement, what we know about that settlement, and some of the quotes from Mr. Hutchins after this settlement was announced, and how this could potentially affect the criminal charges that may or may not be coming for Alec Baldwin and three other defendants with regards to this shooting and Helena Hutchins' death. So thanks for joining me. My name is Peter Tragos. I am a civil plaintiffs trial lawyer in the Tampa Bay area, and we break down cases on YouTube for fun, and we learn about the law and the civil process and the civil justice system, the criminal justice system, trial work, and we do it with as much grace as we possibly can, understanding people go through a lot of different things, the lawyers, the parties in the case, and we try to understand things from all sides and look at it objectively based on the evidence and the information that we actually know to be true. So when we talk through a settlement like this one and learning about the civil justice system, settlements are not a bad thing. A lot of times people think settlements are a dirty word because either both sides were wrong, or both sides knew they were going to lose, or one side knew they were losing, so they just gave so much money, or the other side shouldn't have caved to the settlement. They should have taken it all the way to trial and really driven it home. A lot of people think like that about settlements. And if you're one of those people, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you think that settlements are usually a bad thing in the case. So you can either put settlements are good or settlements are bad, because I really want to know what the general public, what lay people, what potential jurors, which most of you are out there, and I want to know what you think about a settlement. And if you think it's, usually good, usually bad, whatever you may think, let me know in the comments, because I am generally and really interested in how you all see this, especially because you could also be parties in cases like this and be talking about settlement, thinking about settlement. And here's why I'll tell you why settlements are usually good. Not always, but usually good. First, it provides finality. You don't have to worry. What if we take this to a jury and they don't like me, or they really like the other side, and I end up losing a claim that I have some finality and guaranteed resolution with, either money or some kind of specific performance or something like that. Number two, usually both sides can at least feel like they won something. Number three, it can get you out of the public eye, not release any more of your information to the public, and put you in a better position than if the case was going to continue to consume your time, your money, your energy, and just the time value of money. If you settle, you get guaranteed dollars. If you go to trial sometimes and you get a huge verdict, wow, that's great. They're not just going to pay that. They're going to appeal it and drag it through the appeals court for years to come. So there's also some actual resolution to a case when you settle it. You can also get confidentiality, non-disparagement clause. So you're not going to go out and disparage or speak poorly of the other party in a case like that. It can get rid of problems and fighting and animosity, which we should all be in favor of getting rid of problems and fighting and animosity, especially over money, if we are able to do things. And so I'm hearing it depends. That's probably a good answer. Brianna said, if you're a rich person, why not settle financially? Well, if it becomes a business decision, sometimes they do, but other times they want to stand on principle. And if they don't think the other person has a case, they just don't pay. Good finality and surety. Settlements free up the courts too. Great point, Sherry. It can be good. It really depends on the case. Cindy, great to be back. It depends on the settlement. Neither. It depends on the facts of the case. Bad, good. Settlements are good, I think. Not bad. Okay. So it's kind of a mix of kind of how you guys feel about settlements. So when we talk about this case, there was all sorts of wrongdoing claimed by a bunch of different defendants by Helena Hutchins and her family. So when we talk about the settlement in this case, people always want to know how much money changed hands. And Brianna specifically wants to know, since I'm a lawyer that handles cases like this and deals with settlements, how do the lawyers get paid? Do both lawyers on the side share in the settlement? And if so, how much? So Usually, if you're defending the case, meaning you represent Alec Baldwin or one of the companies that were sued as the producers of Rust, you are getting paid hourly. So if the case lasts 5 years, you make a lot more money than if it lasts 5 months. So they probably didn't make a ton of money on this case because it didn't last very long. But my guess is their job is not done and their work is not done, as a lot is still going to happen in this case on the ancillary issues. But they don't take part in the settlement. And let's just, for easy division, let's just say the settlement was for $1 million. I'm sure it was for more. But let's just say it was for $1 million. Well, Helena Hutchins, her estate, her family, they hire a lawyer usually on a contingency fee basis. That would mean they don't pay anything out of pocket for the lawyer, but they get a percentage of the settlement. So if the settlement was $1 million, usually attorney's fees in these types of cases are somewhere between 25 and 40%. If you're dealing with a sovereign, sometimes it's 25% or other reasons, but the vast majority are 33 1/3% or 1/3 of the total settlement to 40%. Those are the normal attorney's fees in cases like this. So if you do the easy math, it's somewhere between $333,000 and $400,000 just in attorney's fees if this settlement was $1 million. So that's kind of how the attorney's fees work, but both sides do not share in the settlement. No. All right. So we know money exchanged hands. What else? Well, let's read some quotes here after the announcement of the settlement. We have reached a settlement subject to court approval. And one of the reasons it may need court approval is because there are minors involved, Helena Hutchins' kid, and you have to get court approval in most jurisdictions for any minor settlement. For our wrongful death case against the producers of Rust, including Alec Baldwin and Rust Movie Productions, LLC. As part of that settlement, our case will be dismissed. So now we know what Alec Baldwin got out of it and what the defendants got out of it. This case is dismissed. The civil lawsuit for wrongful death is over. Next, the filming of Rust, which I will now executive produce, will resume with all the original principal players on board in January of 2023. This is Helena Hutchins' husband speaking. He will now be an executive producer on this film that will start recording back up in January of 2023. To me, that is very, very interesting. Very interesting. So one of the things that some people are probably thinking about is all of the exposure that this case, and I mean the movie Rust, which probably none of us would have heard of because it was not a big film, but most of us would not have heard about this video, or I mean of this movie, without this case happening. But now I wonder if they think they're going to parlay the notoriety of this case into making it a much, much bigger movie. And as part of the settlement, Mr. Hutchins is not only going to get money, but he's also going to executive produce it. To me, that's a little weird, but he states later that it's about making her last project something really great. So here's the next sentence in his quote. I have no interest in engaging in recriminations or attribution of blame to the producers or Mr. Baldwin, meaning he doesn't want to say Baldwin was more at fault. This person was more at fault. I don't want to talk about it anymore, he says. That's probably part of the settlement confidentiality and non-disparagement clause, that they're not going to say anything bad about each other, which is probably something that was really important for Alec Baldwin to get into this settlement agreement. All of us believe Helena's death was a terrible accident. I wonder how much they paid him to say that, potentially, with criminal charges pending. I am grateful. I'm not saying they did pay him to say that. I'm saying I wonder if this was all part of the settlement, because you could say, as part of the settlement, we want you to make this public statement. Will you do that? You can absolutely do that as part of the settlement. I'm not saying they did here. I haven't read the settlement agreement, but that could be part of it. And that could be very valuable to Alec Baldwin and the other defendants in this case. I am grateful that the producers and the entertainment community have come together to pay tribute to Helena's final work. Again, everybody's coming together. Maybe this is going to be big. Throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained the specific desire to do what is best for Helena's son. We are grateful to everyone who contributed to the resolution of this tragic and painful situation. Sorry, this is Alec Baldwin's attorney speaking, that last part. Before, it was Mr. Hutchins. Film director Joel Souza, if you remember, he also got shot, who was also injured in the shooting, is expected to return to the film. Those of us who were lucky enough to have spent time with Helena knew her to be exceedingly talented, kind, creative, and a source of incredible positive energy. I only wish the world had gotten to know her under different circumstances, as it surely would have been through her amazing work. In my own attempts to heal, any decision to return to finish directing the film could only make sense for me if it was done with the involvement of Matt Hutchins and the Hutchins family. Though certainly bittersweet, I am pleased that together we will now complete what Helena and I started. My every effort on this film will be devoted to honoring Helena's legacy and making her proud. It is a privilege to see this through on her behalf. That's what Sousa said. Rust Media Productions LLC attorney said, we are pleased with that the parties came together to resolve this matter, which, subject to court approval, marks an important step forward in celebrating Helena's life and honoring her work. So those are some quotes from all involved after this settlement was announced. And it seems like everyone is working together. Everyone is happy that they were able to come to a resolution, and everybody is ready to move forward and continue this film. So to me, well, first let me ask you this. Knowing that this is settled and listening to those quotes and kind of knowing at least money changed hand and he's going to executive produce and everybody's going to come back and finish this movie, who do you think won? Who do you think looks better in the public eye after this settlement? Is it Alec Baldwin and the defendants because they, did the right thing, they paid, they're trying to honor Helena Hutchins? Or is it the Hutchins family because they didn't drag everybody through the mud? They could have prolonged this. They were going to win. The public eye was already behind them, in my opinion. And they decided to resolve it. And they're being very gracious in their responses that this was an accident, not blaming anybody, not rehashing anything publicly, not really disparaging people publicly that they absolutely would have every right to do if they do believe that people were at fault for their mother or wife dying, or sister or daughter. Most of you are saying Alec Baldwin. Both sides made good decisions to settle. Different people are saying different ways. A lot of people coming in with the Hutchins family. Both. I'm seeing a lot of comments for both. And to me, as a civil litigation attorney who tries cases, who litigates cases, and who settles cases, it's good to see that you all see how both sides can benefit from a settlement. Nobody wins. Whaley, I understand, L.R. Whaley. Nobody wins, of course. Nobody can bring back Helena Hutchins or undo what happened. Nobody's saying that. We're purely saying from a civil litigation point of view, knowing that this case has settled and not gone to trial, who do you think publicly seems to have won the civil case? Yeah, a lot of people saying both now. Seems better for Baldwin publicly. I definitely think it would have been worse for Baldwin to drag it out, as who could have looked worse. But at this point, I do think both sides had something to gain from this lawsuit. And a lot of the questions here, like Stace on the case, will this affect the criminal case? A lot of you have asked this in different ways. And the answer is, it could. It could not, or the state is not going to drop the criminal charges or drop the criminal investigation or anything like that based on this civil lawsuit. The state will still make their own decision. They have a different burden. They have a different case, and they're not necessarily interested in some kind of monetary settlement. However, if this case would have continued civilly in the civil justice system, in the civil court system, it would look worse for the defendants. It would have a team of high-powered civil plaintiffs lawyers also gathering evidence, trying to prove wrongdoing of all of these defendants. And sometimes when a civil case is going on at the same time as a criminal case, the civil plaintiffs lawyers who represent the victims in the criminal case can find more evidence, throw more money, throw more resources, spend more time than even a special prosecutor can as part of the criminal case. And if we start working together, which we absolutely have worked with state attorneys on cases where we represent the victims of crimes, we can provide a lot of evidence, and it's just more eyes, more brains, more thought, more evidence coming against these defendants. And so while it could have negatively affected the case if it continued, which means for Alec Baldwin and the defendants, this was actually a positive in the criminal sphere because they're resolving part of the case, part of the people pointing the finger at them trying to prove their fault. So it does help them from that sense, but it by no means is going to make the criminal cases go away just because they settled the civil cases. And again, we don't necessarily know who all 4 of these potential defendants are. We don't know if they were defendants in this civil case. We don't know if it's Alec Baldwin. We can assume, we can speculate, we can talk about it, but that's really the only way that I think it could affect the criminal case. Amanda H. commented, thanks, Peter. Good to know I did get a good deal paying my lawyer 25% of my settlement. I never really knew, but he's a family friend and said it was. So yes, sometimes family friends will do that. Sometimes you have to be careful because some lawyers will discount their fee big time, and you have to wonder, why are they doing that? Why are they discounting their fee so much as to what they charge other clients potentially? And is that fair? And if they discount some and not others, family friends are different. But a lot of times people will ask for discounted fees, and a lot of times we can't do it, not because we don't want to, not because we're trying to screw anybody, but because we limit the amount of clients that we take. We limit the amount of cases that we take. So we want to charge everybody the same fees. And if we can charge everybody the same fees to make it fair for everybody, so nobody feels like they're getting like the Verizon or Spectrum, getting screwed because they have had Spectrum for 3 years and now they're paying more as a loyal customer than somebody who just signed up with Spectrum. We don't want to create those problems. So for the most part, asking for discounted fees, sometimes you get what you pay for with lawyers, especially like hiring the cheapest lawyer in town is not necessarily as good or getting a better deal than if you would have hired the most expensive lawyer in town. Now, just because somebody's expensive doesn't mean they're the best. I'm not saying that, but you got to be careful sometimes with discounting professionals like lawyers. Linda LaFerrere, what is litigation financing? So there are certain companies that provide financing or money to litigate a case. Usually that is not for attorneys. Usually litigation financing is not paying the attorney's fees. Usually it's a good point, Brianna. I'll tell you about this a little bit. Usually litigation financing is to like pay the costs on the case. So $400 filing fee, $50 to have it served, $5,000 for this expert, $20,000 for this expert. Usually the law firm pays those costs and then they get reimbursed those costs at the end of the case. Sometimes litigation finance team will come in, they will finance those costs, and then you have to pay them those costs back plus a percentage of interest usually. So you want to talk about that, and it's really only supposed to be used in certain circumstances, but that's what litigation financing is. I want to talk about Brianna's question real quick. The fee percentage should be based off the settlement range amount, and it is, at least in Florida. Our fee agreements are 33.33% to 40% up to $1 million, depending on if it's pre-suit or in litigation, up to $1 million. $1 million to $2 million, it goes back down to 33.33%. And I think over $2 million, it goes down to 25%. So it does range depending on how much the settlement is. The fee percentage can change. So good point. Thomas, Peter, I am saying this is an insurance company payment, right? Probably. I would be willing to bet this is an insurance payment, but the insurance company is probably happy because Alec Baldwin and the other producers and people that have worked on this movie, by working in the executive producer angle, that's an amount of money the insurance company doesn't have to pay. That's coming out of Alec Baldwin's pocket and some other people's pocket. But in reality, if you compare now the notoriety and the redemption project, furthering Helena Hutchins' final work and final project, it's going to make so much more money now than it would have before. So everybody's kind of working together for that little side pot of money. So the insurance company probably saved a lot of money by working in that as part of the deal. M4A now. The pressure on making this movie a good movie could not be greater. If they want to get out of this, it better win all the awards and kill at the box office. I think they are planning on it, putting a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of energy in it. No doubt about it. Stace on the case. Thank you for all the great info and chat. Absolutely happy to do it. So stays on the case, retainer. So retainer is usually different. Retainer, you usually do pay out of pocket, and then it's an hourly rate, either billed against the retainer. I've done some videos on different ways lawyers are paid, where we go into flat fees, retainers, contingency fees. So I encourage you to check that out. Good question, Evie. I'm flabbergasted. They plan to continue filming with what budget, with what safety protocols? I think it's going to be a much bigger budget film. I think it's going to be much safer this time around, unfortunately. Perfect, Amanda. I won't put your business on the posted here, but no, totally understand. I did not mean to disparage that family friend lawyer. That was very nice of him, and family and friends. It's a different story, of course. I have done stuff for no fees sometimes for family members. Oh, this is a good question. A lot of people are putting this comment in. Will you watch this movie? Will you watch Rust? And not just will you watch it, but will you watch it strictly because of your interest based on this case? Or do you like Westerns? Do you like Alec Baldwin? Would you have watched it anyways? But if you only are going to watch it because of the interest coming from this case, let me know in the comments and let me know in the live chat now. And if you are going to watch it, hit that like button too on the video. Cosmo said, I'd watch the movie now. PD or PL Dem says, I will absolutely not watch the movie. Mo says, I will watch because of Jensen Ackles. I don't know who that is. Ackles. I will only watch because of Jensen Ackles. I don't know who that is. Yes, I would watch it. Wouldn't watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I will watch because of the case. Who would watch it? Wouldn't that condone the events? I don't think I would say it would condone the events. I don't think watching it would mean you're condoning the events. No way. I think there's an angle you could say you're supporting Helena Hutchins and her family if you watch it. And I think that's an angle they're probably going to sell if you want to be cynical about it. But now that her husband is going to be an executive producer, it's one way, to further a good cause. A lot of people like talking about good causes, but not actually doing anything to help it. That's an easy and entertaining way to at least help something that people could say is a good cause. Yeah, Stace on the case said just to support Helena Hutchins. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not trying to guilt you to go watch it. I'm just saying I can see arguments on both sides as to why someone would potentially want to go see this movie. Not that anybody has to or anything like that. David said, I'd watch it. Might be a good movie. Fair. And some people would just, Jen Ackles from Supernatural. Okay. I don't know. I've never seen that show. Yeah, I would. Busha says I would watch it, but I understand why people would choose not to. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think there are, discussions to be had on both sides, which is what makes this interesting, makes it fun, makes the chat so fun. Jensen is Dean in Supernatural. So if I'm thinking about it correctly, is Supernatural also have the guy from another show? It's like two guys. One of them was like Superman or something. I don't know. No, I think I've seen I was on the WB. I think I've seen like commercials for it or whatever, or trailers for it. Rich Cat can't believe it either. Yeah, I've never seen Supernatural. People saying we need to make Peter watch this. Maybe I'll check it out. You think it's my kind of show? I wouldn't think it was. Yeah, Leah Georgia makes a good point as well. A lot of people working hard on this movie. Let's not forget the cast and the crew, which is part of it. That's for sure. Let's see what else we got. Oh, they're monster hunters. Interesting. Mira, Peter, if you had to work on a very high profile case like Rittenhouse, Depp, Heard, Vallow, how would you feel personally? I mean, those cases have I would feel differently based on the subject matters of the case, but the fact that they were high profile, the only way I would feel differently is just commenting publicly on them would be through a specific filter. And I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the client's case. That would be the most important feeling to think about it with all the public eyes on it, but I wouldn't handle the case any different or feel any different about the subject matter, whether it was a famous person or not. Probably not your show, but you should watch at least one episode of Supernatural. All right, Steph, I will check out one episode of it since I don't think it would be my kind of show and neither do you. Azam, Peter, if this case is settled, who is charging those defendants criminally? Is it the same party? No. So in America, which Azam is not from here, so it's good to talk about kind of how the American justice system works. Two separate systems: civil justice system, criminal justice system. People and individual private lawyers can bring civil claims. Only the government, state attorney's office, U.S. attorney's office, district attorney, attorney general can bring criminal charges. So the civil charges were brought by Hutchins' family. They hired private lawyers and they sued Alec Baldwin and these defendants. The criminal case is done by the district attorney's office, by the government, by the state. The law enforcement officers, they are doing the investigation and making the criminal charging decisions totally separate from each other. All right. That's all we've got for this live today, but another settlement happened today that we have discussed. Twitter, Elon Musk. We've got a blurb. We've got a statement made. We've got some quotes, and we've got some serious thoughts about who won in that case based on that settlement. That's going to come later today. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that reminder bell so you get alerted and don't miss out on the future videos that we have coming. And that short about another case has posted to Instagram at Tragos Law. If you want to check that out, we'll be posting it here on YouTube as a short as well. Let me know if you're interested in that case. And a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions based on who is involved in one of the other new cases. So I appreciate all of you joining me for this live. Hit that like button on your way out. And until the next time, I'm out of here.